Lawyers for President Trump are waking up to a new kink in their defense strategy, courtesy of retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. News breaking late yesterday in the New York Times that attorneys for the ousted National Security Advisor and early Trump booster would stop discussing the special counsel's investigation with them. This could indicate Flynn is now cooperating with prosecutors. Flynn long denied the campaign's links to Russian efforts to undermine the U.S. election, often deflecting the issue. I spoke with then campaign surrogate just over a year ago and tried to get his thoughts on Vladimir Putin. Please watch this closely. Take a look. When I think about Vladimir Putin and what a dangerous man he is, I ask you, how would you describe Vladimir Putin in one word?
Yeah, you know something, Stephanie? Here we just cut a deal. The United States of America just cut a deal with Russia, with Russia's direct involvement, to give the leading state sponsor of terrorism in Iran a nuclear weapon.
Is Vladimir Putin someone you would respect, someone who kills journalists, who's invaded Crimea? Is that a man you respect?
Yes, I mean, stop it with that kind of stuff. I mean, this is a nuclear state in Iran.
Sir? Stop it with
saying
what?
That you know how you're describing a leader in the world that is actually that we have to deal with. We're dealing with him right now.
May I ask you?
We have to deal with Russia.
Without a doubt,
we have to deal with Russia. We cannot make Russia an enemy. Russia is a nation that is deeply involved in the Middle East right now. The Middle East is totally unstable.
Okay, we'll move up. But just for me, I don't know Vladimir Putin. How would you describe him in a word?
Well, here's what I would say, that we have to find common ground with all of the nations on the in the world to be able to work with them to figure out ways to settle some of these situations down.
Sorry, I was just trying to take notes there. Exactly how did he describe Putin in a word? Oh, he didn't. Michael Flynn's son, Michael Jr., tweeted this just a short time ago, a pic of 30 Rock's Tracy Jordan yelling, "Everybody calm down." Mike Flynn Jr., don't worry, we're calm. We're watching it all unfold. And calmly joining me now, CNBC's John Harwood and MSNBC legal analyst Danny Savalas. Danny, let's start with you. What could this mean for the investigation if Flynn is responding?
If Flynn is cooperating, but we don't know that yet. Here's why. The modern joint defense agreement is a creation that allows multiple subjects of a grand jury investigation to share information between their attorneys and each other that would otherwise be destroyed by the privilege rules. If you tell anybody other than your attorney, you lose it. So this allows them to collaborate. Often, if one of the parties is going to withdraw and start negotiating a plea agreement or cooperating with prosecutors, they will leave this joint defense agreement, which might be the reason that you see Flynn cutting off ties. That is a standard maneuver. It doesn't necessarily mean he's cooperating. It may just mean he's negotiating for a favorable plea agreement or a cooperation agreement, and like all negotiations, that may collapse.
That may collapse. John, I want to share with you what Corey Lewandowski said earlier today on Fox. Take a look.
Is the whole Russian collusion thing about to come crumbling down on Michael Flynn and this White House?
The bottom line is if Michael Flynn did something wrong by not disclosing the relationships he had with Turkey and other governments, then he should be held accountable for that. Now, I don't think this goes anywhere other than to Michael Flynn and potentially his son. But what we've seen is that people who haven't followed the rules, people like Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, Mike Flynn, if they have done something wrong, they should be held accountable.
Okay, so he says these people have to take responsibility, but the list is getting longer and longer and closer to the top. Mike Flynn, Paul Manafort. Mike Flynn was the NSA director. He was reporting to the top.
Right, and for that matter, the list includes Corey Lewandowski. Remember, Corey Lewandowski is the one who initially denied that he had approved Carter Page's trip to Moscow and later said, I refreshed my memory. Now I do remember doing that. So, look, when you have a sequence of events that includes a meeting with the president's son, his campaign chairman, Jared Kushner, with Russians promising dirt, they acknowledged that they discussed in the meeting a measure that was related to Russian sanctions. And then you go through the campaign and you have people like Mike Flynn and President Trump never saying a bad word about Vladimir Putin. You tried to get him to say it. He would not say anything bad. He said, we've got to work with him. And then, of course, he lied about his conversations, Mike Flynn did, with the Russian ambassador after the election. That got him fired. There is every indication that what Robert Mueller is doing is methodically trying to gather information and go up the chain. And there's not much further up the chain you can go than the National Security Advisor, and that's the president.
I think I made a misspoke. Yes, National Security Advisor. That was Mike Flynn's post. Danny, I want to ask you, a former Russian broadcaster gave a talk in the Netherlands recently, and he discussed the Kremlin's desire to push negative stories on Hillary Clinton and positive stories on President Trump. Why can't the administration just say, yes, they were involved and they want to get to the bottom of it? Couldn't one make the argument Vladimir Putin had the same goal that President Trump had, but it doesn't mean that they work together?
It doesn't necessarily mean they work together. Remember, you have election law that that is violated anytime a foreign national or foreign government is involved in an American election. So the key to the Russia investigation really comes down to two major prongs. The first is, was there any cooperation by an American in helping Russia violate this alleged violation of campaign law, or election law, I should say? And secondly, was there a cover-up? So anytime you have any connection whatsoever, even if there was an independent act by Russia to be involved in an American election, then any connection between any Americans is suddenly relevant for violation of that law.
This is an interesting story. It's not going away anytime soon. John Harwood and Danny Savalas, thank you so much.